Hey, it's Bill with the Effective Church Group. This is Catalytic Church Growth, weekly tips for growing small membership church. And that seems really contrived, but hey, that's what we're all about. This week, I want to talk about a rather sensitive, a rather sore subject, and I want to talk about failure. In particular, I want to talk about ministry failure, failures that happen in real life ministry. And the reality is that ministry failures, they happen all the time. The sad part is that most of the time we don't even realize it. We don't know that our ministries are failing because, well, that's what we're going to talk about. Why we don't know they're failing, how they're failing, and what we can do about it. So I want to talk about why that happens, how you can stop it, and how you can stop your next ministry from crashing before it even gets off the ground. This one's probably going to sting just a little bit, but it'll save you years of frustration if you're new in the ministry. So here's the blunt truth. Most ministries fail because we've never defined what success looks like. We launch programs, we launch events, we launch sermon series, we preach sermons on Sunday with some vague idea that we want to change lives, we want to reach our community. But what does that actually mean? You can't fix what you've not defined. If your outcome is foggy, if you don't know what you're trying to get, then the results they're not going to magically appear. We call it a win because, I don't know, something good happened, but we can't prove what good really was. It just happened. The good news, though, is that fixing this isn't terribly complicated. You just have to start with defining your win before you start. Now, what is a win? What does a win look like? And, we're going to talk about Vacation Bible School in a minute, but just because you have a bunch of kids there doesn't mean it's a win. Or just because you have a bunch of extra people in your worship service, that doesn't necessarily make it a win. In fact, having people there, if you haven't planned for it, if you have no way of following up and all the rest, it may actually be a lose. So we can fix it, but you have to know exactly what you're going to accomplish in advance. You have to plan for it. You have to measure it, and you have to adjust along the way to try and, make the win into a real win. That's how churches stop spinning their wheels and start seeing real transformation, especially transformation in lives around them, in the neighbors, in the neighborhoods. And of course, when that happens, it transforms the church as well. So let's talk about one of the most sacred cows, Vacation Bible School. I know. Vacation Bible School is, it's almost an untouchable sacred cow because kids love it. The parents love it. Volunteers seem to love it. And parents say nice things about it. But when I do consultations with churches and I ask, so over the last 5 years, how many new families have you got as a result of pulling out your Vacation Bible School and, getting folks there? You know what response I get? Almost always it's none. Or occasionally I get one or two over 5 years. It seems to me that that's a lot of work, a lot of resources expended that gets almost no real return on the investment. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not the Vacation Bible School isn't working. It's that we never planned for it to work. We never defined what that win would look like. We get excited when 44 kids showed up, woohoo! But if every one of those kids is already a member of some other church, the Baptists come and visit, the Presbyterians come and visit, the Methodists come and visit, and then we have our 7 kids, it's not a bad thing. We've accomplished some Christian education, I suppose, but it's generally speaking, it's not the goal that we thought we wanted. We tend to do Vacation Bible School because we're going to reach the neighborhood for Jesus. And we're not reaching much for Jesus. How many baptisms have you done as a result of this? How many new families do we have actively engaged in the faith because of this? And again, the responses are, So I got a couple steps for you. I think 5. First step, we'll count them as we go. First step, define your ministry outcomes. Decide what it is you want to accomplish. Every single ministry in your church, including your Sunday worship and including your sermons, needs to have a clearly identified, measurable outcome. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You can't repeat it. You can't make it better. You can't go, oh, wow, that wasn't working very well. And every outcome has to be judged and aligned based on the mission of the church. And the mission of the church is anyone to make disciples. The founder of the church gave us that mission, and you can gussy it up however you want to. We're going to invite, send, and disciple people for, that however you want it. But the bottom line is that when you boil it all down, the mission statement for the church is to make disciples, more of them and better of them. And better disciples always make more disciples. That's what we're here for, is to go ye therefore in all the world and make disciples, not just, feed the church members and make them feel good and educate them. Our goal is to get them out of the pews and sharing the faith in the neighborhood. Same goes for you, Pastor, getting out of the church building and sharing your faith in the neighborhood. Jesus gave us one mission: make disciples, not to entertain people, not to fill seats, but to make disciples, people who will actually follow Jesus. So step one is to define your ministry outcome. What are we actually after? And it should line up again with making disciples. Now, it can be something else as long as it's moving in that direction, as long as we're intentionally trying to get to that point or get to that step. But the reality is we have to paint that outcome. What do we want out of it? So step two, you design from the end. So you got the outcome, you know what you want to end up with. So the next step is to, how do we get there? And you design your event, you design your sermon, you design your worship with that end in mind. You reverse engineer it, so to speak. What would it take? What would we have to do to get that end? That end is in the beginning. That end is, where you begin will determine where you end. We do small groups is another one. We do small groups without really having an end in mind. Well, we want to make disciples in some way. We want to, people to be connected or whatever. But if we're actually making disciples, if that's what we want, is people who actually behave like Jesus followers, what are we going to do to make those folks or help those folks achieve that end? And I can assure you, it's not reading The Purpose-Driven Life. We tried that. Didn't work. Reading a book doesn't make the changes. How do we make the changes? Well, it's going to be behaviors and so on. And how do we hold people accountable? And it's not just Christian education, it's Christian obedience. So start with the end in mind. So that's step two, design with the end. Step three, implement and adjust. Get her done. Once you launch, don't go on autopilot. Check your progress. Ask whether what you're doing is actually moving the needle towards the outcome that you define. And if not, make course corrections as you go. You're not failing, you're learning. You're trying to say, okay, this is where we want to go. What do we got to do to get there? All right, step four, measure what matters. Be ruthless and be honest about measuring results. We're really bad in the church about measuring results. Oh, we'll count the people, the butts in the seats, or we'll count the bucks in the plates or whatever, but we don't measure what matters. We're not measuring, are we growing? Do we have new people? Do we have new people who weren't Christians before? Or are we just recycling from one church to the other, or from the duns into the church? We've reinvigorated them to show up, which is not a bad thing. None of that's a bad thing. But if the goal is to make new disciples, then how do we get those who are outside the church into the church, or at least and that doesn't mean necessarily in the church building. How do we get them in the church with the people? How do we get them so they can learn about the faith, explore the faith, and try on the faith? I've seen churches brag about having 80 people at a church event, and they didn't produce a new disciple. They didn't produce a new guest on Sunday. Don't confuse activity with achievement. Make sure that you have an end in mind, you have that outcome, and then you measure the outcome you're actually going for. Well, we had 80 people. We had 44 people at Vacation Bible School, and no families ever came. Your outcome failed. If the goal was to grow your church, make more disciples, have more baptisms, whatever that outcome was. Be ruthless. Celebrate, yes, but celebrate with some evaluation in the back of your mind of, okay, what do we need to do differently next time? And that's step 5. Evaluate and learn. Do a post-mortem. When the ministry ends, don't just move on to the next idea. Ask, did we get to our outcomes? If not, why not? What do we want to repeat? There's a key. What good went on? So what do we want to do next time that's like this? And then what do we need to adjust to make better for next time? It's not about blame. It's about learning. It's about evaluating and saying, this went well, this didn't, this is what we're going to do next time so that we don't make the same mistakes over and over and over. So here's the bottom line. Ministry failure, it's not necessarily inevitable, but it is pretty common. It's predictable, though, when success isn't predefined, if we don't know where we're trying to go. So design your ministry with outcomes. Design with those outcomes in mind and measure them and evaluate them. And of course, make course adjustments as you're going. And make sure, of course, everything aligns with your mission, because if it doesn't align with your mission, it's a distraction. And church, we're really bad at distractions that keeps us from doing and accomplishing the mission. So if you want help in this, if you want to get serious about making disciples, then I'm going to invite you to be a part of, let's see if I have it. And do I have it? Yes, there it is. That quick start. Click on the, use your camera, click on the QR code. You know how to use the QR code. And I'll put it in the description later on. Take a look at the Quick Start program. It's the QuickStart Church Growth Track, where we do coaching. Most pastors, I find, they don't know what to do this week. What are they going to do today? We're going to do this week to grow the church. Well, every Monday, we'll send you a sheet that says, hey, do this this week. It's a 30-minute to-do that'll help you grow your church. And there's other resources there. In fact, tomorrow I'm doing a master class with those who are already in the Quick Start to talk about how to turn their preaching into a bridge to reach the neighbors. So I hope this has served you, and I'll see you later on this week. I think I'll go live again later this week. So